Little boy.
Main
So then if like
Staples.
it's close enough,
Is yours?
like on Wi-Fi or
Who
whatever,
was it from up there?
you just hit.
Yes.
was it from
Yeah, I left it here
Gloucester?
last time. No.
Was it Steve
I will feel
Hawthorne?
very official if I have this.
No, it couldn't have been. Or Peter
But those
Bragg.
give you
Great.
rest powers, you know that, right?
What's his name?
Oh, look, we're on air. Yippee.
He's a black guy.
Oh, okay, Dustin. Yeah, he's awesome.
Yeah, wicked nice guy. Young fellow.
Yeah, he's great.
We love Dustin. Welcome, everybody. Today is Monday, August 11th, 2025. We convened at 5:45 p.m. for council photos / glamour shots, which was a nice moment for all of us. Not. It is now 6 p.m. We are here for a workshop with Revision Energy, Buydown, and expansion of the solar field. We have Guy with Revision Energy with us. Guy, I'm so sorry. What is your last name?
Marshall.
Marshall?
Marshall, yeah.
Marshall, like the
Rose.
Supreme Court Justice John Marshall back in the
yeah.
day. Okay, great. Welcome, and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. So obviously, what we're proposing tonight is an addition to the existing array. A little bit of history, in that the array that you have now is a tariff credit system. So there are two types of credit systems in the state of Maine. One is a kilowatt hour credit, and the other one is referred to as the tariff. And let me back it up. In Central Maine Power, there are a number of different rate classes, and basically what it means is that's the rate per kilowatt you're charged. Residential rates are the highest, small general service rates are the next lowest, and then they significantly jump to a medium general service and or large. So basically, bottom line is the more power you use, the less it costs. And you have accounts in town, a number of them are medium general service accounts. The advantage on a tariff credit system is specifically for a medium general service rate class or a large. And the reason is that the medium general service rate is 11 cents a kilowatt. Small general service is 20, residential is 23 cents a kilowatt. Now, currently, the Public Utilities Commission credits the account for any kilowatt hours you produce at 20.22 cents. So they're charging you 11, you're getting 20.22 cents for all the power that you create. A new rule passed in December 31st, 2024 that said you could not share those credits unless the property was either another building on the same property or the property was co-located, which means it's an abutter. Well, in your case, none of your accounts are abutters to the array, but you were grandfathered under the provision before the law changed because you built it prior to that. So you are actually able to share tariff credits with a variety of other properties. And currently you are sharing credits with every single medium general service account that you have with CMP. Now the new array is going to be completely separate. And the reason it's completely separate is we don't want to change what you have that's existing because of its grandfathered status. We don't want to change that. It's an opportunity you will never get again. And what we are going to be producing with the new array is a kilowatt hour credit. So that array is going to produce kilowatt hours. It's all going out to the grid, every drop of it. Those credits are going to be tracked through the meter, and then we are going to assign those credits to the various buildings in town that are either a small general service rate classification or residential, which is the case with the elderly housing apartments. So we are now going to be able to offset the kilowatt hours on all your residential and your small general service. So essentially, you're not going to have a no bill, but you will have done anything possible with solar that you can do. So the entire town, every account is covered under some program. Go ahead.
You're saying that we can't use those kilowatt credits for anything except residential?
Or small general service rate class.
And what is that, what is the metric there? What is the bar?
So you can't share tariff credits unless the properties are co-located adjacent to. However, the big difference is kilowatt hour credits you can share with any building in CMP territory. So we could produce power in Cumberland and share it with a house in Kittery if we wanted to. That's the big difference. So what we're doing is we're going to create kilowatt hour credits on the capped off landfill, and we're going to divide them with all the properties that the town currently pays the bill on in a kilowatt hour for kilowatt hour credit. So for example, let's take a residential account. So it's 23.4 cents a kilowatt. So for every kilowatt hour that we are producing with the array, we're offsetting 23.4 cents. That's not only the kilowatt hour energy charge, but it's also the delivery charge to get it there. So it's you get credited the combination of those two items. And so you say, well, why wouldn't you use the tariff? Well, it's because the tariff rate is only worth 20.22 cents. So, for example, the small general service rate is 20.5 cents, higher than the tariff credit. And the residential rate is 23.4, again, higher than the tariff. So in that case, we're much better off with a kilowatt hour credit system.
So we don't really care about cost. We just want to talk about kilowatts. 1 kilowatt per 1 kilowatt today, tomorrow,
Right.
10 years from now.
So like when we did the model with the rate of return on investment, which is in the cash flow, we used today's rates. Now, I can tell you that we anticipate that the rates are going to go up considerably on January 1st. We're looking at probably 6% increase at least. Every time CMP goes up, your savings become greater and your ROI gets better. So it essentially fixes your rate. Now let's get a little more. A power purchase agreement price only escalates at 2% a year. So if I start out at 10 cents today, it's 10.02 cents, and so on and so forth. So you can budget and plan what your energy is going to cost as long as your usage is relatively equal. And in looking at a couple years worth of CMP bills on all your accounts, for the most part, you're pretty steady in terms of usage. So really what you're trying to do is control price. And you're controlling price because the kilowatt hour credit is worth more as prices go up.
I think Bob has a follow-up,
No,
then
go
Bailey,
ahead,
then
go
Mike.
ahead.
We'll go down the line.
Yeah, go ahead.
So one of the keys to investing in solar
Yep.
is it allows you to invest in heat pumps. You don't want to put a heat pump in a home when you're buying electricity at market rates.
Right.
Because you're paying costs. So the idea behind the additional, so we don't want to box ourselves out with making the statement that today, what we have today, which is gas and oil,
Right.
we want to substitute that with heat pumps.
Right.
We want to make sure that there's the generation there to allow us to convert to
Yep.
heat pumps.
And so my background is I used to own an HVAC, oil, propane, and biofuel company. So I can tell you that there's formulas out there. They're easy Excel forms. So here's a gallon of oil. Here's the BTU output. Here's the cost per dollar per BTU. You can do the same thing with propane, and then you can do the same thing with electricity under heat pumps. And you're going to find that without solar, the heat pump is the best buy, for your dollar.
What,
I would dispute that.
Well, okay.
Matt, just one question. So town hall is heat pumps, correct?
We're mostly gas-fired
Okay, so we're gas-fired.
at this
and-
time.
And the library's getting some heat pumps, right?
Yep.
But do you have a rough, when you say most, is that like 80%? Do we know what we would need long-term? to be fully powered on heat pumps?
In here,
I mean, here, the library, I mean, we're probably also talking Hawthorne Court, right, for phase 2?
yeah, it's kind of one of those things that, like gas is in many ways the bridge to where we're going to get to. It's whatever's the most economical right now. I know Councilor Vale sat in with Chris and I last spring with a consultant to look at if we, like, at what point it would make it cost effective for us to convert, and part of it's the age of our units and what they have for remaining life, and to figure that out. But long term, it would be within our, especially as the technology improves each year. So by the time we get to the point of replacement, we could convert that over at that point in time and go that route. But in the library or on a point, like on a point of service, like Hawthorne Court, for instance, you could put heat pumps in every one of those units on the first floor, and you could take care of a good portion, for sure, cooling, and a good portion of their heating as well. They're all on like 7-year-old gas boilers and right now, so they're in pretty decent shape. But at the point that those age out, then, but you could complement it in the short term. So we've kind of got that into that play. And at the library, that's equally right within the mix of it. So.
And just for the folks at home, could you just give, and then sorry, I know Bailey and Mike also have questions. Could you give us just a rough idea of all the properties that are on our existing solar and what we'd be looking to add on to with phase 2?
Sure, it'd be, Valhalla, Town Hall, Public Works Garage, the library. Oh, gosh. Twin Brook, our Portland Water District, any.
West Cumberland?
Pardon?
West
Yeah,
Cumberland?
West Cumberland, West Side Station, Fire Station, the Grange Hall on the west side. Guy, I can't remember, did we get our streetlights within that as well?
Yeah.
And all our
Because
streetlights?
they bill you monthly, a monetary charge. It's not a kilowatt hour charge. So the best offset to that was the tariff credit, because it's a monetary credit. So you can use that on the streetlights where kilowatt hours wouldn't apply there.
And then part of the equation that we did when we were working with Guy on this was also including all the units that we have at Hawthorne Court. So that would make that, I've come up to speed fairly quickly, along with Councilor Vale and sitting in on the housing, and Councilor Thorson sitting in on the Housing Authority meetings the past couple of months, and looking at those and what our rents are over there, and if that would be an awesome amenity to be able to provide that, if as part of their rent, and we could look at adjusting the rents to include that. But a lot of the affordable housing units have utilities always included on that side of it, so that would put us in a comparable footing with that, but it would also provide a great service to our tenants over there. So we've got pretty much every building that the town is involved in, and that currently may or may not be within our envelope of what we offer for power, but now under this new model, we've tried to find a way that we can include the whole universe of every property that we do have.
Really quick couple of questions. The existing solar field you said was on tariff credits, and
Right.
the new solar field would be on kilowatt credit. Would this be converted, the existing one, to kilowatt credit, or
No,
would it
definitely
remain
not. No,
tariff?
we want that monetary credit that's provided through the tariff system, because you have
grandfathered in.
medium general service accounts
Yep.
where, we're essentially going to be netting the spread or the difference between the power purchase rate, which is 16.4 cents, and CMP is going to credit your accounts 20.22 cents.
Okay. And just out of curiosity, you had mentioned that after the start of the year, energy prices will go up. Are there any, not loopholes, but because we own the solar field, why is CMP involved? Is it the conversion to be able to supply power, or is there other ways to be managing power so that we're not held to CMP's power standards? I get that they're the general provider, but I'm assuming someone who owns a solar panel on their own, are they working with CMP or they
Yes.
are?
Yeah,
Okay.
because
So
you,
it's a monopoly.
in rare cases, you're gonna have, you're gonna have times throughout the year
Yeah.
where you're not producing as much energy as you require.
Yeah.
And if you're not connected to CMP for those times,
Yeah.
there'll be no lights.
Okay.
So, people that, go 100% solar on their house, and then we have, a spring like we just had with, countless rainy days, they're not producing what they need, and they're going to have to supplement that with power from CMP.
And how much power are we supplementing with? Do we know?
Is it 490,000 guy? Is it right in that range?
Yeah, currently.
Yeah, currently it's 490,000 kilowatt hours.
Do you see that changing at all in the future? Like the connectivity to CMP? 'Cause it-
Unfortunately, I don't, because
Yeah.
CMP owns all the
So the
infrastructure.
two-
Yeah, they own the poles, they own the wires. We need their system. And the other thing is if you think about it, we're creating energy on the capped off landfill.
Yeah.
And we don't have batteries to store it. So we're using the grid to store it. So we're putting it out to the grid, which is why we have to file an interconnection application, because we have to say to CMP, hey, can you take this power? Are your
Yeah.
lines and transformers and switches big enough to take this? We put it out to the grid. They credit your bills as we put it out. You then use those credits to offset what they're charging you coming in.
Okay.
So you're still going to have that relationship where electricity comes in, but credits get put on the bill.
And
Okay.
Councilor Douglas, to your question, I'm sorry, I misspoke. The current, phase one grid
Yeah.
produces 636,443 kilowatt hours, which is about 18,200 more than was originally projected. So it's been more successful. And then phase two, if that comes on board, is about another 459. So it's about 1.1 million kilowatt hours that it'd be produced if both phases are there. So
It's a 1 megawatt
yeah,
facility.
basically it's a megawatt facility at that point in
Yeah.
time.
We're just under a megawatt.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
1 megawatt's the limit in the state now. I mean, we're existing on the one, but we'd have a harder time if we didn't stay just under a megawatt, which is what we're going to do.
Thank you.
Sure.
A question about that really quick.
I think, or,
Okay, the
Mike, did
1
you have a
megawatt thing.
question?
I'll think
I'm
of it.
good. You asked to
Okay.
kick, so
Oh, great.
I appreciate it.
When you say we have to stay under a megawatt, is that for a reason? If we were to become a municipal community solar provider or something, would we be able to go beyond that? Or is that like a state law, like
Currently, the
municipalities cannot?
state law was changed December 31st, 2024. As of this year, you can't install the solar array over 1 megawatt. And the reason is, there were a lot of huge companies coming from out of state installing these monstrous fields, wherever they wanted beside the highway, taking up farmland, just sort of wherever it made economic sense. And so the PUC, in order to try to regulate that, shrunk the size to a point where out-of-state investors aren't really interested. There's just not enough production to make their legal fees and accounting fees, and all the infrastructure they have to do. They have to do environmental studies. There's just not enough profit in it for them, where there was in the big arrays. So a way of curbing that was to shrink the size. So, for example, we used to build community solar farms where people could buy into them. They were the owners. And we used to build 3 or 5 megawatt systems. And now, in order to, offset a 5 megawatt system, we have to build 5 1 megawatt systems.
Interesting. Okay.
And that's where we've gone.
Okay. Thank you.
So if we have an energy policy to be energy independent by 2050, it seems rather convoluted that we would only want 1 megawatt size facilities. Up in Benton Unity, they cleared 800 acres for a facility up there that's, I forget right off the top of my head the scale of that, but it's a
Right.
huge A huge array.
unfortunately, all approved before December 31st, 24. It was approved before the deadline. So
Right,
it doesn't
and-
have
and
to be
that's a
built.
significant power source for the state of Maine.
It doesn't necessarily make logic. So there are plenty of opportunities where you could build a big system and nobody's going to see it. But you can't any longer. So you can build, 1 megawatt systems, but you have to then be on a different switch. So it's all about how things are wired, and everything goes through a central location. There's one in Cumberland. So even if we built an array on the school property and we built another array on the other side of town, if they're on the same switch, we won't be able to do it. If we could put it on a different switch or in a different town, then you could build another array of 1 megawatt and offset the rest of your power. That it all comes down to being on the same switch.
Administration too.
Go for it.
One of the things that we've talked about in the past is community solar. We watch,
Yeah,
I'm a builder, so I'm familiar with
sure.
putting arrays on the homes that I build.
Yeah,
They're typically not starter homes, so
Right.
one of the things that we've talked about is community solar.
sure.
And I'm not sure that we want to get into that tonight, whether we're just conversing about our proposed project here, but
Right.
are we legislated ourselves into oblivion and not being able to do something along those lines if we wanted to pursue a community solar project that benefited our citizens?
You aren't, unless you do it in the same switch as the big array that you already have on the capped-off landfill. You'd have to go to a different switch. Now, I will tell you this, on July 7th, all the tax credits were wiped out as of December 31st. So we, for example, are probably going to pause on building community solar farms that people can buy into because we're afraid they won't sell out without the 30% tax credit. Currently, if you're a business, so a homeowner can take the 30% tax credit against their personal return for the cost of the array, at 30% of the cost of the array. But a business who buys community solar farm shares can not only take the 30% tax credit, but they can also depreciate it. And currently, the depreciation schedule has changed so that you can depreciate it all in year 1, which means you're going to be able to recoup a fair amount of the money you just put out within the first year between the tax credit and the depreciation. The depreciation is going to stay in place for now, but the tax credit's been eliminated. And what that does for a homeowner who ordinarily would have bought community solar farm shares, they might have had, for example, an 8-year rate of return on investment with a 30% tax credit. That's now going to change to 12 or 13. And our feeling is you're not going to get as many people interested in those. And for us to put out the kind of money, because we front the money for a community solar farm with the hope that we sell off the shares, and we're going to have to be a lot more cautious about that. So, for example, the opportunity that we have right now is, or had the potential to be impacted by this federal law change, because we have investors that are going to put up all the money for the array. Those investors take the 30% tax credit and they depreciate the array. So the timing is such that we need to have a net energy billing agreement signed with CMP prior to 12/31/25, which we will be able to do with this array. But if we were to do this array next year, that investor wouldn't get the 30% tax credit, and the power purchase price would be considerably higher. So you are literally getting the last of the benefit of the 30% tax credit.
Is this plan going to be structured very similar to the one we had for the existing field?
Exactly the
There's
same.
no prepayment penalties?
No, now the investor must hold ownership of the array for 5 full years. That's an IRS rule.
Right.
On day 1 of year 6, you have the opportunity to purchase the array from the investor.
At the end of the 60 months.
At end of, yes,
End of the
60
fifth-
months,
end of the
exactly.
50 year, we can-
Yep.
60 months in one day.
So
We've
we
done
did
it.
the math to say, okay, you have $750,000. We have 2 opportunities. You can A, pay off the first array, or B, do what we call a buy down. So you can, if the purchase price is $1 million and we have 750,000, well, now the investor's only putting up 250,000 against this production. So the power purchase agreement goes down when you buy down the contract, and you can do that ahead of time. But we ran the math, and because the production of array number 1, the first phase, is so much higher than array number 2, the best use of your money was to pay off array 1 and not do the buy down on number 2. And those figures are in the packet that Matt sent out.
Guy, could you also talk about, would the town have the opportunity if it decided that it wanted to just basically buy it straight out, array number 2?
Yeah.
Would the town be eligible to syndicate the credits, or what would would the town have any purchasing power that an investor could take care of or take advantage of?
So so Westbrook's doing this right now. So the Westbrook decided, rather than go with a power purchase agreement because they had some money, they are gonna buy the array. And if you can buy the array it's just like leasing a car. If you buy it today versus lease it for 3 years and then maybe buy it, maybe not, at the end of the day, it's cheaper if you buy it on day 1. The savings are incremental. And the town can't depreciate it because you're a nonprofit entity. However, if we move quickly, you could get a 30% rebate, federal rebate. It's not a tax credit because you don't pay taxes, but they would essentially cut you a check for 30% of the cost of the array.
One question on the, so if we're owning it outright, right, there's gonna be some additional costs for
Yep.
maintenance,
Yeah.
repair, and I know the depreciation of the actual functionality has been really, really great, right?
Yep.
It's expected to be at like 0.05, but has been significantly less, but
We're actually producing more power than was projected in year 1 by, I think
a
it's
substantial amount.
Right.
10%. It's pretty
18,000,
significant.
yeah.
So what are the costs, just like ballpark-ish? What are we
You're gonna
looking
have
at?
insurance costs.
Okay.
You're gonna want an operating and maintenance agreement so that Revision or somebody,
Okay.
let's just use Revision, is monitoring the array. And you have somebody that's gonna go out and do repairs and maintenance on it. So if there's a fault in the array, let's say there's, 500 panels out there and we see that panel number 37 is down.
Yep.
We dispatch somebody out, either fix or replace the panel.
And then I think it said somewhere that we would be looking at getting a new transformer at like year 19 or something, or is that part of phase 2?
New inverters.
New inverter, sorry,
That's
inverter.
okay, yeah.
Inverter.
The inverters, 3-phase inverters, which is what you have a 12-year manufacturer's warranty on them. Single-phase inverters like you'd use on a home would have a 15-year. Revision warranties everything, parts and labor, for the first 5 years.
Okay.
The disadvantage to the manufacturer's warranty is it doesn't cover the labor to replace it. It just covers the part.
So if we are, sorry, one more question, Bob, then over to you, Bob. All right, so I'm gonna take this I'm gonna take the example of my home and then hope that you can explain this. All right,
do it,
so
yeah.
we have rooftop solar and
Yep.
we have more panels than what we currently need for our energy consumption,
Yep.
with the idea that at one point, if we put in heat pumps or a second electric charger, we're set up for that.
Yeah,
We have we bought 2 inverters. Only one is hooked up now.
yeah.
Because we have the second one, because we project at some point we're gonna need it.
Yeah.
So for So for phase 2, are we looking at additional cost, or would we have to buy additional inverters, or is that already factored in? And because we may not have those heat pumps yet, right? But we know that long-term, we want to be getting away from nat gas and switching over to heat pumps. So have we factored those costs into these
So I
increments
can
as
answer.
well?
So unlike your house, we will not be overproducing power.
Okay,
So what we're creating is just slightly more than 100, like a few thousand kilowatt hours more than last year's total usage. If you add one heat pump, that takes care of that. So we're kind of capped out, but we're not, because you have a year to use that excess power. So power that I create in August of 2025, I have until July 31st, 2026 to use that month's credits.
Yep.
If you don't use it, CMP takes it. So it's a use it or lose it. So in your case, you would be better off to gift that excess power to a family member and or a nonprofit of your choice. Don't waste it. Don't give it to CMP.
can't you also, I mean, we could take that excess power and it could go to the school, right? Or it could go to,
You
but
can go to any property in CMP territory.
aren't you able to sell the credits?
That's between you and the buyer.
That's between us and the buyer, but that's something that we could look into,
Yep.
which is what we do.
Madam Chair?
Yeah, then Bob.
Thanks for coming tonight.
Mike,
Is the
into
recent-
into the mic.
Is a recent bill passed by the Congress and signed by the president that eliminated the solar credit?
Tax credit, the
How-
30% ITC tax credit. Correct.
So after the end of this year, there is nothing, correct?
Not for anybody who's building. So, for example, we're going to get a net energy billing agreement in place. We are going to safe harbor this project, which means that we are in advance of December 31st, 25, going to buy all the modules and all the inverters that constitute start of construction. We then have until the end of 2027 to complete the array and put it online. Now, we're not going to take that long, but we have until then. So we are heavily using the safe harbor provision. We're now renting extra warehouses in various places because anybody that we want to safe harbor, we have to physically take delivery of the modules and inverters, and it has to be connected with a PO specific to that job in order to safe harbor that 30% tax credit. If you don't do that, you won't get the credit.
Very informative, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're not using microinverters, you're using string inverters.
Yes, we are.
And so when this is built out, we're producing the maximum amount of power that this array can generate. There's no
No
plugs in the
upside.
hole, no plugs in the system.
This time.
Right.
And the scale, the size of this is anticipated to fully electrify everything that we own.
Yes, you're still going to have a bill because, I mean, you know, so I take your total monetary bill, and there's a lot of other charges other than electricity on there. There's peak demand charges, there's the monthly service charge, there's lighting, parking lot lights, there's all kinds of other things that are on your bill. So what we did is we took the monetary total of what you use in the town. We divided that by the 20.22 cents a kilowatt that we're going to receive for the tariff production. And that gave us the number of how many kilowatt hours you have to produce at 20.22 cents to offset that. And because of the grandfathered tariff situation, we can't expand that tariff array any larger. But we've come as close to offsetting those tariff medium general service accounts as you possibly can. You're still going to have some cost. But on the residential accounts and on the small general service accounts, which are fairly significant, you know, they're over 400,000 or 457,000 kilowatt hours. that's going to be a dollar for dollar exchange. The only thing you're going to end up with, give or take, after the first year is essentially a monthly service charge. You should be able to offset almost all of the energy and the delivery charge.
I think we all understand that the cost of electricity today
Yep.
is going to increase next year
Right.
and every year going forward.
Right.
But the generated cost of that kilowatt is a fixed cost, as is the fixed use of that kilowatt.
Correct.
You run your dryer for an hour today, and you run your dryer for an hour next year, it costs the same, and so.
That's right.
You know, I'm not, you don't have to convince me that this is smart way to
Yeah.
produce energy and offset costs to the taxpayer in the town of Cumberland.
Well, and it's been a huge asset, in particular for nonprofits who, you know, have budgets and they got to meet budgets and they're trying to anticipate what does next year's budget look like. And with this electrical PPA, you're going to be able to say, well, we're going to increase our electrical costs by 2.25%, and we know that's going to cover the electricity for next year because you have a fixed escalator in the power purchase agreement pricing. So if CMP goes up 10%, doesn't really matter because you're only going to go up 2.25%. That makes sense? So it basically protects you against electrical inflation.
When you build the new section on there, what's left on the landfill? Are we built out?
Pretty close. The back right corner has still got some space. If you look at the design of the array, you'll see you're going to be like, well, why didn't they bring that all the way out to the end? Well, first of all, we didn't need it to offset the kilowatt hours, but more importantly, it's designed so you can turn a tractor trailer around on the field in that location. Doesn't happen very often, but you could produce more kilowatt hour credits, possibly. But again, we have to keep that 1 megawatt limit in mind as we expand that.
Jeff, and then Denise,
I think Denise
and then
was
back
first.
to Bob.
I think Denise was actually first, so.
All right,
Just a
Denise.
quick one. Mentioning the 30% tax rebate going away, but then you had mentioned, or no, a credit going away, but then you had mentioned a 30% rebate for buying outright. Like, is that going away as well? Is that
Yes.
just semantics,
Everything's
same
going
thing?
away on 12/31/25.
Until it eventually comes back, I'm sure. But yeah,
Hopefully for our sake.
right.
We have about 2.5 years worth of work backlogged. So the hope
Yeah.
is,
Jeff?
Yeah, I got a couple questions for you, but we can take them one at a time. You know, you spoke earlier about one more heat pump and, you know, that will be at capacity. I guess I'm just trying to understand exactly how far 1 megawatt goes, you know, with the town of Cumberland's energy consumption. So as we sit today without every building being on heat pumps, you know, obviously we're using some gas, we're using some oil. Are we, you know, once we finish this field, are we pretty much there to fulfill today's needs? So
you are pretty much maxed out on the property that you're on the switch that you're on. So the only way you could expand within the town would be to get into a different switch area.
Sure, I understand that, but my question is, let's say we put heat pumps through every building in town. Are we going to be able to cover that electrical cost, or are we going to get a bill from CMP for energy uses
You're
at that
going to
point?
get a bill for CMP for anything you're short over the array production.
Okay.
Yeah.
And once this is finished being built out, we're almost totally consuming everything.
On
Right.
the current,
Oh,
not
okay.
not the expanded.
I thought it was
I
going to
thought,
be.
I thought it
Well,
was,
with the
reaching, like, net zero
combination
for
of the
current
two
usage.
projects being extremely close to 1 megawatt together.
okay.
Am I answering the question? Maybe I didn't.
I think
answer
based
the
on
question
the information
correctly?
we got in the packet, it made it seem like this project together, nearing 1 megawatt, would then cover all of the town's current usage,
Right.
including housing and everything. So if you convert everything to heat pumps, then at that point, you're either going to need to build a different site, because we have now maxed this one out, or you're getting a bill. So That's how I read it, if you will.
Yeah, that's correct.
I mean,
And
that
then-
is correct.
And then the other thing to consider is, things get more efficient in the future too. So we may find that, as you go forward, LED lights, great example of that. Where everybody's on incandescent, our electricity usage is significantly less than it might have been 15 years ago, just because converting some of those over. Street lights, for instance, we went from, mercury vapor lighting or whatever that was before, to LEDs that we have now. Those mercury vapor just like burn dollars, because they were so expensive to run. So some of those things may come into play as you go forward. And then you look at, as Councilor Vale was asking earlier, or actually Chair Filson was saying, if we converted to heat pumps away from gas, you look at that and say, okay, at what point does that make economic sense? If gas has cost you X amount of dollars per BTU versus heating and cooling for X amount of dollars on the heat pump side. So you end up having to make that decision that you would eventually as well, comparing where you want to be. But I think long term, we're reducing our costs significantly because we're basically providing for ourselves. So we're having a savings, and then hopefully in the future we'll be able to meet some of those needs as efficiencies improve.
Question.
So like currently, I don't think you could do more. You're covering as much as you possibly can on those medium general service accounts with the first phase array, which is a tariff credit system. And with this new system, you're going to be covering the remainder of the accounts, which are the residential accounts and the small general service accounts. But yes, if you add to that load, we don't on this site have much more capacity.
Thank you for confirming that.
Yeah.
Sorry, I think I conflated because Hawthorne Court is not currently on the system.
Not
right?
currently, but it's
Right,
but it's in the calculations. Yeah, so if we
Okay.
So
okay.
so we included them in. So yeah, sorry. I'm so glad you asked that question.
Sorry, I was like,
Yeah.
wait a minute.
So what we did in the modeling at this point in time
Yeah.
was saying, okay, we know we have X under all the town's universal control, but looking at this, we pulled in all of those additional buildings as well that we currently don't have on that, and so they're being stacked on top of what we have, including Hawthorne Court. So we put them into the mix, so they are part of the accounts that we would be able to provide or meet the needs for. So we
And-
don't currently, and we would be able to with the expanded field.
And any future properties that the town was going, if the town purchased another property, we would be covered, to your point, that, or depending, I guess, on their usage, of course, but as long as they are a CMP customer, those credits can go towards that bill?
As long as we didn't go over our amount of production.
Or, yeah, the production, of course, yeah.
Now, here's another example I'm just thinking as you talk. If you, let's just say you bought another building or built another building and it had a viable roof space, we can add solar to that roof. What we can't do is do a ground mount like we've done here of a substantial size.
Even if it's on the same switch?
Systems under a certain production rate fall into a different category and they pass right through. Systems over a certain production rate then go into this analysis and scrutiny. So if you can stay under that, it's so complicated with CMP. There's phase 1, phase 2, 3, and 4 application processes. And each one gets more expensive and far more complicated. So if you can get something through CMP at a level 1 or level 2 application, that's a home run. If you start getting into a 3 and 4, now we're talking about, wetland studies. Everything's got to be surveyed, drone surveys. I mean, it just gets so complicated. And then those costs escalate up to $100,000 and you haven't even started the project yet. So you can definitely, if you were to build another building and had a viable roof, you could most assuredly, unless it's a school, for example, build something on the roof and use that to offset the power of that particular building and or others.
Thanks. Go ahead.
So, hopefully, a quick question on the switches. You keep saying, if it's on if it's on the same switch, we can only go up to so much. how would one go about getting something on a different switch? Like, is it just physical placement of,
Yeah.
if it's closer to Falmouth and Falmouth has a switch that's close to that,
Right.
there's a geographic sort of
So
area
there's
that,
literally a geographic map, and we'll put the address in under the place that we're considering to build a solar farm. And it'll tell us what the switch is, and it'll tell us what the capacity of that switch is. And if the array we're about to build exceeds its available capacity, because there might be 10 other things on there, and they're like, well, we have this much left. So you can only build an array that's that big, because that's all we've got left.
Denise or Jeff, do you guys have questions?
Yeah, I have like 4.
Yeah, okay, you go first.
Okay,
I got
okay.
like 3.
Let's see. First, looking through the rate schedule and savings projection, can you explain the difference between the PPA escalator percentage of 2% and the utility escalator 2.5%? Which of those are fixed, which are determined by other factors, and if they are determined by other factors, how we arrived at that percent?
So for modeling only, we use the utility escalator at 2.5%. I can tell you that since I submitted this, we've bumped that to 3.5%.
Okay.
Because of the anticipated utility costs. We want to be conservative, but we want to be in line. We actually think that the utility costs are probably going to go up at about 6% on January 1st. So CMP goes up, or they have the ability to adjust their bills twice a year. July 1st, they adjust the delivery portion of the bill. And on January 1st, they have the opportunity to adjust the energy part of the bill.
So based on...
And then the escalator for the PPA that's how much that 16.4 will increase on an annual basis.
So based on that higher utility escalator percentage, how would that change this table? Just like...
It would mean that you're saving more money because the utility rates are going up, and
Okay,
your
got it.
price that you start out with the 2.25 escalator is going to lag behind the escalation of the utility bills.
Okay. Also, the anticipated useful life of the current and future array, are they about the same? Or have there been efficiencies
roughly.
since?
Yeah, for 40 plus years.
Okay. And if the town did decide to buy out our current field and, the maintenance and all that stuff would fall to us and the insurance, do you have a general annual figure for that offhand?
We're
Maybe.
working on that. We
Okay.
already do some, because we cut the grass around it, so that's part of what you do. So, and Guy, correct me if I'm wrong, but probably in the $3,000 to $5,000 range.
For insurance, yeah. I mean, you guys have an umbrella policy and you get such good rates. I'd be surprised if it changes it significantly.
And what about maintenance?
And that's part of one of the items that we'll be looking at when if the council authorizes me to go forward with that. We'll get those numbers kind of hammered out and identified, as well as a purchasing plan. Like right now, for instance, the town will have roughly $450,000 set aside to offset the purchase price on phase 1. So if we want to do that, and so we've been working with Helene on ways that we could structure that. And so we're working on that once we find out what that final number is for the outright purchase for phase 1. And then the other thing, kind of the reason why I asked Guy that question about if purchasing and being able to take care of the rebates or the credits, how that would be, you'd also want to look at that potentially and say, well, if you wanted to bond that, what could you do that for? The rates, what would the rates look like to do that? Is that a viable option? Is that, if you're going to save X amount of dollars and you could use that towards offsetting your debt service and it's a 1-to-1 ratio, that might make mathematical sense as well. So those are some of the areas that we would look at in an expedited fashion and try to have that ready and provide that to the council so you could make an informed decision.
One last question. Buying out versus the alternative, which I suppose is we don't, and then we, it's in its revision who manages it basically as we pay it down. What is the end game the same once they reach their end of their useful life as far as who's disposing it, who's paying for those disposal costs, who's doing the labor for that? Would it, if we did not buy it outright, would it be not us who would take care of that versus us if we do take that on? How does that work?
Let's say you don't buy it out, right? And the contract that we have on a power purchase agreement is a 25-year contract with 2 5-year renewable options. And those options are at your option, not ours. So if you choose to renew it for another 5 years, you can do that. At the end of 30 years, if you want to renew it again for another 5 years, you can do that. At the end of the 35 years, we sit down and say, okay, so either we can dismantle this and put the land back as it was, or you can buy it for $1 or whatever it is. It's still producing some energy. Do you want to do that or not? Or in some cases, what happens is, you know, the modules that we put on today, you know, they're much more efficient modules. I mean, if you look at the module changes over the last 5 to 10 years, it's incredible. I mean, we've had 3 module changes this year. And so what you may do is say, well, there's nothing wrong with the aluminum racking. Let's leave that in place. Let's take the old modules off, dispose of them, put new modules on, and just simply upgrade the equipment. And the problem, you know, we're talking about 35 years from now,
Right.
and Lord knows what, you know, the situation's going to look like at that point. But my guess is technologically, there's going to be huge advances between now and then. The point would be that, you know, what is your rate of return on investment? When do you break even by owning it?
Right.
You know, and if it's a 40-year life expectancy and you're able to break even on that array in year 10 or 15 because you bought it outright, you know, there's 25 years of essentially no-cost energy.
Right. Thank you. Those are all my questions
Jeff
for
had
now.
questions, then back to
Yep.
Bob.
5 minutes left.
Yeah, I think Denise actually answered all but one of mine. You spoke earlier about, you know, removing the modules.
Yep.
What's the disposal cost in today's dollars look like when you go through that process?
I mean, we send all the modules out. They're completely 100% recycled. 0.02% is actually lead solder, and even that is recyclable. So there's no portion of that that isn't recycled completely. It's essentially, you know, glass and metal.
Okay, it sounds like a pretty labor-intensive recycling process, so
Well, we don't do it. We ship them out.
okay, so is there a cost to that?
Yes,
Okay, do you know what that is?
I don't.
Okay. That'd be good to know.
I mean, not so like the recycling cost today will be obviously hugely different in 35 years.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I suppose you could do some sort of calculation to 5% a year or something.
Sure.
Bob, did you have something?
I just want to point out to the
And then back to
council and to everybody, we are in the position that we are today because of the aggressive march that we made some years ago to pay this down, and the commitment by the previous council and this council also to make the investment in that so that we can do what we're talking about today. And so I want to ensure that we are on that same march, because the idea of paying it down and owning it, it's like any mortgage or any bond. You once you've paid that mortgage off, that's kilowatts that we own, and it's a solar system that we own. And you know, I'm convinced that this is the right step to take for the community.
I mean, one of the concerns that we have is time is of the essence. Like, we have to do interconnection applications by the end of August, first part of September. And if you are going to try to seek a bond, I'm assuming that's going to take time. If you were to purchase it outright in lieu of the power purchase agreement, you just be conscious of the time. We don't want to lose this opportunity with a 30%, you know, tax credit, AKA rebate. If you had that ability to move fast, that would be one thing. But if you don't have the ability, then I wouldn't go with that option. What I would do is take the PPA for 5 years, pay it off in year 6, let's see how the system's up and running. Maybe it's, I mean, anything like the first array, we're overproducing on the first array. When we do calculations, the solar modules that we use today are called bifacial modules. They used to use only monophase. So we all think of, you know, those arrays are at a 35-degree angle, roughly 180 degrees. And for years and years, only that front face produced electricity. Well, now we buy bifacial modules for exactly the same price as the monophase modules, which, believe it or not, they still sell. And you get reflection value, especially in the wintertime, off the snow.
Right.
And we gain somewhere between 5 and 6%. But in our modeling, we only use 2. Because, you know, we'd rather under
These
promise
only
over
work on a ground array.
on a ground mount. You won't get that bifacial production on a roof.
Or pole mounted. Over to Andrew.
So just hopefully real quick,
Sorry.
2 questions. When you say end of useful life,
Yep.
what percentage of production is still there? If, you know, if useful life starts at 100% production on day 1, end of useful life, is that 0%? Is that 50%?
So in our modeling, we use a 0.5% per year degradation. So 0.5% times
Over 40 years is
20%.
Okay, so we're still
We're still at 80%.
at 80%.
Right.
So
and you
it's
own
not,
it.
yeah, it's not like at the end of the useful life at 40 years, it's
It's not
dead.
not like my iPhone that goes dead in
right.
exactly 2 years in a day.
right. It's still producing at 80% of what it
Right.
was and all.
Yeah.
And then the second question is, you said with the megawatt on a current switch, we're overproducing right now on phase 1. And with phase 1 and phase 2, we're like right there on where we should be. If we overproduce on both of them and that kicks us over a megawatt, does CMP come in and yell at us and make us shut parts of it down?
No, because
or-
when we put the application in, the solar systems are rated by kW or kilowatts. And when we go in at that, if you're going to get a sunnier year and a cloudier year, and they expect those variations. So they just do the you know, if they want to double check our calculations, they're going to take the number of mods. Those mods are 400 watt panels. They can only produce X. Now, can you exceed that? Yes, you can, but they needed to standardize what they accept as 1 megawatt. And here's the formula they use for 1 megawatt. Whether that produces slightly more or not is irrelevant. Here's the formula, and it matches that formula so that when we submit that application, it's accepted that that's the formula that we both used.
So if we overproduce, we're still fine.
We're fine.
All right, great.
Yeah.
It's so fast, though.
Last question. He's not going anywhere.
With net metering, are we allowed to buy our own batteries and store power in the event that,
You can,
so we don't have to use generators?
you can add batteries.
I'm sure they're quite expensive.
I'm going to say for long-term power outages, I wouldn't depend on it.
What's long-term, like a couple days?
Batteries, yeah. Batteries are really to offset peak demand charges.
Okay.
Not to get into the math, but like if I always use Booth Bay Aquarium as an example. They have 3 huge seat pumps. And once a day, they turn those things on. And their electricity just spikes into the roof, and then it dumps back down once those pumps have circulated that water. And what utilities do is they check your account for every 15-minute increments, and they take the highest peak or demand that you had for any 15-minute increment. Well, at the aquarium, it's first thing in the morning, and it spikes. So what they say is you might need that power throughout the course of the month, when in fact you only use it once a day, and it's always at the same time. So we're going to put that power in reserve just in case you need it, but we're going to charge you for that. And that's called a peak demand charge. So if you have a battery, what will happen is they turn their pumps on, and it's going to pull from the batteries first, and then it's going to go to the grid. So instead of that peak being up here, it's now down here, and that sets the rate for the month.
gotta start staggering my energy chores.
And then we obviously convinced them, like, don't turn all 3 on at once, stagger them by
Right.
4 hours.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I just want to be conscious of time because we are at our start time. Thank you, Guy. Does
Yeah.
anyone want a quick recess, or are we okay to keep going?
Very helpful, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
We good to go? I'm good.
Yeah.
Okay, great. All right, well, then we will continue on. Welcome, everyone. Today is Monday, August 11th, 2025. At 6 o'clock, we had a workshop with Guy Marshall from Revision Energy regarding the buy-down and expansion of the solar field. First up on the agenda is the approval of minutes from the July 28th, 2025 meeting.
Give you a motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Any abstentions? All right, motion, or it passes with one abstention. Brenda, I bet Brenda got that. Okay, great. Next up is manager's report. Mr. Sturgis, that's you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Let's see, just need a moment here to get my stuff together. There we go.
Is it a big
Sorry.
report?
Yeah, I hit a button by mistake while I was fat fingering around on my keyboard here. So good evening. I have a few different items to update on. First of all, I have a Greeley Road update. Greeley Road will reopen tomorrow afternoon. So it was, we're working on the 3rd week of that, but final work, including, well, tomorrow afternoon, they should be opening, but there is some final work, such as guardrails and a few other elements that will need to be installed. However, that can be done with flaggers, so they can open up those roads. So that should be opening up, at least by close of business tomorrow, with both of the culverts being paved. We really want to say thank you to the residents and the public for their patience throughout the project, because it's never fun to try to work around that, and but we do appreciate their patience. I have good news. Tomorrow is the beginning of the Senior Tax Assistance Rebate program, and that begins tomorrow, and we're going to do processing at the following times: tomorrow from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. right here in council chambers, on Wednesday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m., and then on Thursday from 2 to 4 p.m. And after these sessions, applications will still be accepted on a rolling basis as they come in during the period of time. Forms are required, and documentation, all of that is available on the website, but we also will have it here. There is not an appointment required, so people can come in and we'll do first come, first serve. So it's a great program, and we'd be happy to have many people take advantage of it. Also, the Senior Property Tax Stabilization and Deferral Program has opened. Applications are available, and an information session is planned to be held on September 17th here in the council chambers from 11:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. So we are looking to expand that application period deadline to October 1st, especially in this first year, if people are interested. We don't want people to be hurried into making that decision, so we'd like to expand that a little bit. Waste collection update. Staff continues to troubleshoot issues as they arise. And I know Chris Bolduc was out working with some residents today to try to find a solution to a pickup on one of the lake roads. And I think they've come to a successful reconciliation on that, which is good. Call volume is starting to decrease as we enter into week 2. And we appreciate the residents' cooperation and their feedback, good and bad, and ideas on how we can improve are always appreciated. Residents, if they would like to get rid of their old recycling bins or trash cans, they can bring them to the Public Works Garage at 23 Drown Road between the 22nd of August and August 31st. And we'll be able to handle them there, and staff will take care of them. Speaking of upcoming waste management events, I know a lot of folks will be interested in these, and please mark your calendars for the following events. These will also be held at the Public Works facility at Drown Road. Universal waste drop-off, that's electronics, TVs, e-waste, computers, things along those lines. It will be on October 11th. wait for it, bulky item drop-off, October 18th. So that's a popular item. We may not do the pickup, but we will have the drop-off, which was, we did that last fall, and it was successful, and we're hoping that we can build on that success for this year. And then also, document shredding and disposal will take place on October 25th. So it's 3 busy weeks at the Public Works facility, and trying to help folks take advantage of those and get rid of items that they might have some challenges getting rid of. And we're trying to provide some convenient opportunities for them to responsibly dispose of various household items. And that's what I have this evening, Madam Chair and Council, for Manager's Update.
Madam Chair, I have a couple questions.
Please.
Matt, great updates. Thank you. Just a couple quick questions on 2 items. The Greeley Road, was that project, are we behind schedule on that?
We're actually, when they got the bid, it was a 4-week project, so we're a little bit ahead of schedule. We were hoping it would be wrapped up on Friday.
Okay.
And they just needed to get in there today to finish off, do the fine graveling, and then tomorrow they'll pave it. And so then, but we're about 7 or 8 days ahead of where we, by contract, could have been.
When, on another subject, when I was coming through West Cumberland, coming from Wyndham, going home, I noticed there were some yellow stickers on the trash bins. Is that, they just found people weren't following, they weren't in compliance, or I just noticed some yellow stickers on that.
Yeah. Okay, yes, they're tagging in case someone was not in compliance, to let them know what they need to do, such as use the town trash bags or other items along those lines.
Yeah, I gotta tell you, Matt, it went flawless on my street. All the feedback I'm getting from my neighbors is positive, so.
No, thanks for that. We have received some positive input. We've seen, all good, bad, or indifferent. We want to hear it all, and it's tough when you convert to a new system. There's going to be a hiccup or two, but we've got to make sure that we find solutions. That's the biggest thing when there are challenges.
Thank you.
But no, thanks, Councilor Eads.
Christmas come early with bulky item drop-off. Thanks for making that work. Okay, any other questions for Matt, or we'll get a wiggle on? Okay. Oh, was that a?
No, I'm good.
Okay, that was a thumbs up.
Yeah.
All right, cool beans. All right, next up is public discussion. Public discussion is for comments on items that are not on the agenda. Comments are limited to 5 minutes per person. Rebuttal comments will be 2 minutes. Public discussion topics may be brought up again under new business for further council discussion. Is there anyone here that would like to come up and chat? Yes, sure.
Bill Young, Hedgerow. On the continuation of garbage, number 2 on the battles of engagement with the garbage cans. We are told on Hedgerow anyway that we have to put our garbage cans across the road. We can't leave them in our driveway. I'd just like to say that Casella's income for this quarter is $1.84 billion. They are traded today at $99.95 for stock price. And that's great, but if I don't understand why why we can't make an extra loop on the street, because it's not so bad now, but I'm gonna have to snowblow a hole in the wintertime to put my garbage cans across the road for these guys. So I just wondered if that was part of the contract, or I know it's a silly little thing, but it's gonna turn into something. So I figured we just cut her off at the pass. Anyway,
Thanks, Bill.
Thanks.
Thanks. Is there anyone else that would like to come on up?
Take me a second here. Dottie Spalding, Greeley Road. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
So I'm
Pull-
short.
What, do you want to pull it down just a little bit? Perfect.
Is that better?
Yeah, that's perfect. Thank you.
I wasn't able to attend the last meeting, but I did watch it on TV. And listening to the people that came to the podium, there was one thing that became glaringly obvious. There's a tremendous disconnect between the town officials and the residents of Cumberland. One example is the rubbish collection. One man who lives off of a main road with several other houses on his street expressed concern because, whoops, I'm sorry here, about locating the trash bins on the main road. He wondered if they're supposed to be 3 feet apart, are he and his neighbors supposed to plow in the winter? Is the town going to plow, and are they going to leave banks? So if they leave banks, is he going to have to, he and his neighbors, plow? And he figures it would be, with all the neighbors and him, at least 50 feet. So that wasn't clear. Then there were enough people who said that they were having trouble getting their bins to the road, so they were forced to get a private contractor to pick up their rubbish. So how did the town respond? The Cumberland Crier did not address the first issue at all. As far as I know, he hasn't heard anything from anybody either. What the Cumberland Crier did is kind of an afterthought, is say, oh, by the way, if you find your bins across the road, that's where you're going to have to put them from now on. Nowhere in any of the literature from Casella does it say that, nor has any of the literature that has come out from the town before. Casella's been picking up trash for a while now, and if it wasn't necessary then, why is it necessary now? I hope to tell you that it better not happen to me. And that, while I'm on the subject of garbage, would it be possible maybe to get a bigger bag that would fit those big trash bins, maybe in place of the bigger bag that we have now? I've noticed when I go down Main Street, down by the Stockholm farm, there must be at least 20 or 25 green bags there. How are they going to fit? They're going to have trash bins all the way up the road to get that many trash bags. And if you had one that fit, it would be easier. Number one, if it would save people if they could just use the one bag, and two, if they don't and they put it in their house in individual bags, that adds more plastic to the landfills. Then there's the reappraisal. If the voters had been aware of how much they would be affected, they would have overwhelmingly rejected the school budget. As it was, it passed by a slim margin. The school board touts that as a win, but it wasn't. It only made the residents more upset. I have lived in Cumberland for 60 years, and my fondest wish is to remain here. But as one whose home was built in the 60s, I will be one of the hardest hit. I live on Social Security and a pension, so I'm luckier than a lot of other people. But even then, coming up with a few extra $1,000 is not going to be easy. I may have to file for the tax deferment plan, and it is something I really do not want to do. I've heard it said that people like me have taken all they need from this town, and that we will be glad to move to smaller quarters or find affordable living. My answer is a resounding no, no. I'll leave you with this. Listen to your residents. Hear what they have to say. Having read and responded to the comprehensive plan survey, let me tell you that that was not the way to get the answers you want. Nothing about school or taxes were in there, but would we like a swimming pool at Twin Brooks? Maybe a town hall type meeting is in order so that people could express their concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to come and chat?
Hi, Christopher Greeley Road. Quick on the bags. If they make the bag fit that container, it's going to be even more expensive to buy. And you won't fill it up. I don't know if you will. And then so it is an issue to me, because now the town doesn't want to lose that revenue from the bags. Why do we need bags? Why can't I buy them up and put them just in that thing? Because you don't want to lose the revenue. which is why we still have to use the bag even though we have the bin. But what I really came to talk to was, I couldn't make last week's, 2 weeks ago meeting. I was gonna reiterate something Councilor Eads said at the end about the shutdown of Rise. And it is really sad, because I was at the meeting the months before when they were asking for that 1 hour a night to maybe do the football games, basketball games, stuff like that. They weren't asking for a lot. I've run a business, I've had to make payroll, taxes, things like that. And I'm sure the people that I really didn't know who opened that up put their heart and soul into it and a lot of money. So I don't know what their lease was, but they could still be paying lease, even though they're shut down. Now they're not paying taxes, payroll taxes, rent. Now, I don't know who owns that building, but now they don't have any income. But guess what? They're still gonna pay taxes. They still might have to pay mortgage. All this is coming. And all they asked for was 1 hour. 1 hour a night so they could, maybe turn those tables, maybe get a little bit more. But I know some of you weren't on the board at the time, but run a business like that is such a slim margin. You are just, you're open to make a living. And then, yes, over years, you can, it will grow and be a place to go. But now I look at it and say, well, the next tenant that the guy I don't know who owns the building, but the next tenant that comes in, it's already restaurant ready. Well, can I go to that extra? No, we went to the town. They said no. So it's not a friendly business. You mentioned in that last meeting, we're looking for new revenue. Town's always looking to try to find new revenue. Well, when I had the business in Yarmouth, I got taxed on the equipment from the town. How do you pay that tax now? So you were getting revenue. You were getting taxes. You're getting people here spending time, but it's sad. It's sad that, the town, you guys looked at it and says, no, we can't give you that 1 hour. And now the next tenant's gonna look at that and go, I need that extra hour, I want that extra hour, but you guys have already gone to the town and said no. So I just wish you'd, be more, it really struck me when you said that. We're always looking for new revenue for the town. Well, this was revenue for the town, and he just didn't give it a shot. So I just wanted to reiterate that. When I listened to, I actually watched the meeting, so, because I have no life, so.
I don't believe that.
Well, it just, you have a commercial building, and I own a commercial building, and we try to work with those tenants as much as we can. We still got 3 minutes. We try. We want them to be successful. We don't want turnover. Because now, like I said, I don't know who owns the building, but now he's getting no income, no lease. And he's going, what do? I got to try to turn that over. And what's the next person going to be doing, coming in? And like I said, the owners that have that business, I don't know what type of lease they signed, could have been a triple net lease, and they had it for 5 years, and they still have to pay, even though they're getting, so how do they do that? It's just a struggle. So it's a struggle to own a business, struggle to payroll, struggle to have employees, and they were asking for 1 hour to maybe turn over on Fridays and Saturday nights. So it's just something I wanted to reiterate about it. About having a council that is business friendly, and we'll try to work with you all we can to make it successful. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Come on up.
Can I just add one thing?
Sure.
Sure, I got a minute. 2 minutes left.
I could be wrong, but my understanding was it wasn't the extra hour that made the business close. It was that he couldn't keep staff, and they were working their hearts out themselves and just couldn't handle it any longer. So it wasn't the hour, it was the lack of workers. And that's true of every business today.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to come on up? All right, then we are going to close public comment, and we're going to move on to, public discussion, and move on to legislation and policy 25-089 to authorize the town manager to enter into negotiations with Revision Energy on the purchase of the existing solar field and expansion of and negotiation on an additional power purchase agreement. Just a heads up to folks here and at home, we had a workshop on this topic at 6 p.m. With a presentation from Mr. Guy Marshall with Revision Energy. There may be some additional are there any additional questions from Guy or before or anything before we go into, it's a public can comment on the agenda item? Do you want to ask your question? Yeah, go for it.
Yeah,
James.
this is more of a council question, the motion question. I'm wondering if it's possible to split these two things into two different decisions, or if we are buying this out and purchasing another as a bundle, can we not vote on whether we would like to own our current system and then vote on whether we'd like to go into a new purchase now? Or do those need to go together?
Or can we go into negotiations and come back and
Right.
vote then?
Yeah,
So what are the options basically
if
before?
I may, Madam
yeah.
Chair.
Sure.
To Councillor Thorson's question, it was deliberately a widely worded question, because in case wanted to come forward with, there's A is like the purchase option. That's pretty straightforward on the existing grid. And then B would be come forward with a recommendation or options that the council could consider. Is it entering into the power purchase agreement and doing that because it may make financial sense to do that, or would it make financial sense to purchase it? Have both as an option and look at it as Mr. Marshall pointed out. Like buying it outright would take longer because we'd have to go through the bonding process, and it may not make it a lick of sense at this point in time. Like it didn't. It's kind of like you. Again, to Mr. Marshall's point, he's been out earlier talking about a lease. It's kind of like you can lease it for 5 years and then decide to do the purchase at the end of your term, so that it can work out perfectly well as well. So the towns could actualize the savings, see how the phase 2 produces and how successful that is, and then look at that in 5 years and a day and say, okay, and now it makes sense to purchase that unit. So there's a lot there, but we can. The biggest point of it is being able to take advantage of the 30% federal benefits that we can, within this calendar year, take advantage of. So it'd be more along the lines of being able to work with Revision and kind of look at what's the best option for the town and come back to the council to finalize what that decision is. But try to leave it loosely worded enough that you could have all those options. But the purchase on phase 1 is pretty straightforward because you've already done the PPA side on that leading up to it.
But I will say that I heard your question to be, do we have to make a decision on array number 2, and can we separate that from whether we do or don't buy out array 1?
Yeah,
and as far as Revision is concerned, they're completely disconnected.
Okay.
You can go forward with phase 2 on the power purchase agreement, and you can decide next week, next year, 6 months from now, whether you do or don't want to buy down or pay off array number 1. And the only reason that we brought it up was because we wanted you to know that we had done the math and whether it was worth a buy down option on array number 2, or whether that same amount of money would be better spent buying down array number 1. And that was our conclusion. The net gain was better whenever you choose to buy down array 1. So that actually separates it that much more in terms of a decision. You certainly don't have to make that decision tonight.
Thank you. Is there anyone from the public that would like to comment on this agenda item? Please come on up.
I'm Peter Bingham, live on 19 Brook Road, and Mike and Bob and I were on the council that negotiated the deal, and from all indications, it has totally and probably exceeded the expectations that went into it. So I think, other than the folks of Village Green who probably didn't agree at the time. I don't think their property values have gone down at all, so that was the only really opposition we had at the time. I do think since we've got $450,000 that we've already set aside, and Bailey, Matt, and Helene can crunch the numbers, but it seems to make sense with present value of money and everything it's worth to take that additional $225,000 and get that paid off so we can maximize our return. And in my opinion, Revision Energy has met everything that they had promised and has proven to be a good partner. I don't really, I tried to get into it this afternoon on Phase 2, but I think that given our experience and the tax implications and the time, that it seems like a good thing to pursue, because we do have a track record with Revision, and also we can take advantage of all these credits, because heaven knows when and if they're going to go. So my compliments to the council, the manager, and everything for coming up with this. And yeah, you'll get a few folks howling on more solar panels, but life as we know it will continue on. So I applaud everybody and look forward to see what the manager comes up with and what you folks do. But it's one of the things that at least met the promises that were given. So thank you very much.
Thank you, and thank you for your help on the initial deal when you were on the council. Thank you. Is there anyone else in the public that would like to come and talk about this particular issue? All right, I'm going to close public comment on this issue and open it up to more questions for Mr. Marshall or just general chit chat. Mr. Magoon?
So, Matt, just a sort of going off of Denise's question, Councilor Thorson's question of the process of this. If we say yes to both of these right now, and we authorize you to negotiate, a new PPA, do you then at the next, do you think that would happen between now and the next meeting? Because, Mr. Marshall is saying that we need to start the ball rolling by late August, early September at the absolute latest to get the applications for different things in to be done by the December 31st deadline. So, do we get another bite at the apple when you say, here's what we've negotiated, and we say, yep, great, go ahead, or yeah, we don't like that, no?
If I may, Madam Chair.
Please.
Councilor Magoon, I think what we're looking at is really just trying to refine what that net number is on the purchase of Phase 1 and figuring out exactly what that number is going to be, and just working with Guy on refining that so we can come back and say, okay, we know it's going to be 600,000 plus or minus, X amount of dollars for the purchase of the outright, so we can have that and work with Helene and say, okay, we have 450 now. What would be our sources of how we could structure that? We could pay ourselves. We use TIF funds. Different ways that we would structure that to close that gap between what we have saved and where we need to be to purchase that outright. And then it's just a question of working with Guy and saying, okay, what does the PPA look like as far as what our rates are going to be, and just getting those numbers finalized as to what they look like, and then we could have that ready for the 25th, I think, if unless I'm getting in front of my skis too far.
No. We're ready to go.
I think we're pretty close to that right now. It's just a question of making sure that the council was on board and saying, okay, we want to do this, and then we can refine those numbers and have it down to the penny as to what the town's commitment's going to be.
So if we said yes today, and then at the next meeting on the 25th, you would come forward with another, here's the actual agreement, this is what we're looking to do, and then we say yes or no there, and then, if we say yes, go forward, and, start the process?
Yeah, and then from that point, Revision would take over. We'd execute our purchase and sale of phase one, and then Guy and his team would go forward and apply to the planning board and go through that process. And Mr. Bingham would have another item on his dance card at a planning board soon. So they would go through that and have to go through the whole site plan review process that was done on the first time around.
Does the site plan review have to be done by that deadline of 2026?
I think Guy can answer that question.
So what would happen as soon as we sign a contract, we're immediately going to go, we have investors in the wing. So the investor money is shrinking quickly. So we have specific investors for this project already earmarked. We've already been in discussions with them just to make sure that everything was lined up. So as soon as you give the go-ahead, we're going to be ready to go to contract. We want to be able to start the interconnection application, which is key, because we have to have a signed mutual interconnection application between the town and CMP in order to be grandfathered for the system.
And that has to be done by the December 31st.
And not only does that have to be done, but we also have to procure all the equipment before that time and receive it.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And you can imagine in the solar industry, every solar company in the United States is doing that exact same thing. So we want to get ahead of this, don't want to wait. So the sooner that you can give Matt permission to negotiate and execute a contract, the better off we are.
Bailey?
One clarifying question. I think we touched on this earlier, but with the buyout, we then become responsible for maintenance, right? And you feel equipped to handle that maintenance from an operational perspective, or is that not in our purview?
We'd use Revision to do the operation and maintenance on the panels themselves and that work in there as they currently have done. But they would let us know what it would be, what the annual fee would be for that as part of the contract.
So we're just subbing that out essentially. Okay.
Yeah,
Just
because we don't
making sure.
have the bandwidth on, but we do take care of the grounds. So
Okay.
as far as keeping that maximally productive and everything cut and neat and tidy.
So what would be the potential, I guess I'm not seeing any potential downsides to the acquisition other than funds, like the concern about holding on to cash. Do you feel like there's any downside?
None whatsoever. No, I think you're paying. I think the town would be paying itself.
Yeah.
Quite frankly, going forward, because I think we've reached the, and Guy can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the town's found its sweet spot at the point of purchase is right, from where we are at, plus the direction that power is going, electricity charges are going in, and to own your own asset at that point, and then we've had good results, probably the better return obviously than it was anticipated because it's overproducing from what was the model had shown originally. So I think that has been successful, and I think we've reached the point where it's depreciated to the point that it makes fiscal sense to outright purchase it.
Okay.
And then
I can actually give you a specific example. So in array number 2, in the proposal, if you don't buy out the array,
Yeah.
so if you continue with the power purchase agreement, in 25 years, you will have saved $745. $745,000.
I was going to say.
All right, yeah.
Missed a zero.
Not really selling me on that?
Maybe you shouldn't do it. However, if you do buy it out in the beginning of year 6,
Yeah.
the savings is $1,722,000.
Okay, those are good numbers.
So,
So
it's more, it's almost double.
what is, out of curiosity, what is the draw for an like the people who are your investors? What are they getting from this?
They get a very nice rate of return on their investment.
What's the percentage?
They're making in the ballpark of 9 to 12% by the time you factor in the tax credit and depreciation. If you take that out, it's not very viable.
Do
Okay.
you have another question?
I guess, so what is, if you're buying it outright, like take the investor out of it,
Yeah.
what is the cost?
30% off for one.
Well, so if you look at array number 2, the cost to the investor, so this is how much the investor's going to put up to make the power purchase agreement, is $1,199,507.
And 9% is potentially what they're making, so that's like what we would classify as our interest rate? In theory?
Yeah. But here's the problem. You can't take depreciation because you're a nonprofit. The investor can because they're
Yeah.
a for-profit entity.
Yeah,
The investor is also in the 38% tax bracket. So they are maximizing out on the investment. And, I mean, I'll just tell you the quick model. Basically, the investors borrow money to invest. They borrow it at 5% and they make
they're
9.
making four, they're making
They're
four.
making 4%
Okay.
spread. That's how it works.
And it's only because we're a nonprofit, we're not eligible for the tax return
You are
The-
currently eligible as of
for the tax credit.
2025 for a 30% rebate. It's not a tax credit because you don't pay tax.
Okay,
But the federal government, once you fill out the forms, will send you a check for 30% of the cost of the array. So that would be 30% of that I'm going to round it, $1,200,000.
sorry, just to clarify, so we're not eligible for that because we're nonprofit?
If you were to buy it, you are eligible as a nonprofit for a 30% rebate.
So-
Now, I will tell you that within the power purchase agreement price of 16.4 cents, that price came up because the investor's done the math and said, I'm going to take the tax credit, I'm going to take the depreciation, and with whatever is left on the offset, I want to make 9% of my money. So if the investor didn't have those options, that power purchase price per kilowatt would be considerably higher.
Okay. So
So-
what would be? Why wouldn't we buy it outright? Like,
Time. I think it was time when we were talking about this, is you have to put a bond together and we don't have time because of this manufactured deadline by the federal government for everyone to rush and get this done because it's going away until it comes back.
That, and it might get us
A
to the.
bond
oh,
didn't make sense last time. It was because it constrained us with our finances. By the agreement we have, the existing agreement, we have the option of doing whatever we want, whenever we want. And so we put aside money every year into a pot, and I would encourage us to go that same route again, because it's not constraining us. It allows us to be prepared for an emergency, if you will, someplace else. That money's set aside. But the savings, as he pointed out, Guy pointed out, are an incentive for us to set a pot of money aside each year and pay it off in 5 or 6 years. So it's
But I do want to point out that you're absolutely right in that financially, if you had the money today
Yeah.
and could buy the array out and capitalize on the 30% rebate,
yeah.
it's financially more prudent.
So-
But we don't have the time, unfortunately. We'd hoped there was going to be a step down over a couple of years in this tax credit, and that wasn't available.
And I'm sure you know this answer to this question, but sometimes your eligibility is, for some of these things, there's not a window of time based on like when wheels go into motion. So like if we're already starting the process with revision, that doesn't make us eligible. It's when we get to the finish line that makes us eligible.
We have to actually technically have a start of construction, which is going to involve buying all the modules and inverters and having a net energy billing agreement signed by both parties.
And when would,
We need to submit the NEB application in September in order to ensure, the 1st of September, in order to ensure that we're actually going to get a signed NEB agreement. because CMP right now, as well as Versant, are overwhelmed with these applications.
Gotcha.
So it's going to slow the process. It's all about time.
Councilor Douglas, to your question as well, I can work with our finance director, Helene DiBartolomeo, and if there's a way that we'll come forward with something for the
Okay.
council to consider as far as like working with Guy and saying, okay, if it was X minus 30%, to figure out what that number is going to be, and if there's a way that we could do that in an expedited fashion or find some way, we'll throw that into the mix.
I guess bear with me in the thought that, like, if we have the cash or can come up with the cash, can we delay, could we start the process of getting a bond at a delay? You know what I'm trying to say? Like, is there the opportunity to come up with the cash and then secure a bond at a later date to replenish the cash? Does that make sense? Like, I guess it seems like it would be in our best interest to purchase it. I guess it would make sense. I just want to understand the finances of it. I don't want to take that off the table, because I think when you're hearing that they're putting forth $1.3 or $4 million, I think that's worth a conversation about timing. I don't think we should just say we don't have enough time. Like, how much time do we need?
I can definitely work with Helene just to say, okay, if there's a way, can we borrow against it? Borrow from ourselves?
Yeah.
Fund balance, things along those lines could be an option. Or talk with a bank and say, okay, if we could do a 5-year note, something like that. You've done that like you would a lease purchase on an ambulance or
Yeah.
a fire truck or something like that. I mean, there's different options there that we could look at and say, okay, what are those prevailing rates and what type of time period are we looking at for closing? And if we know on the 25th, council says, Matt, go for, or between now and then, council says tonight, go and negotiate with it, work with Guy and say, okay, we know what that number is. That gives me a couple weeks to say,
Maybe it doesn't make sense.
So let me just throw out another option.
Yeah.
So let's just say that you make the commitment to purchase the array.
Yeah.
Right? So we need, by, let's just say, the end of October, 40% of that cost, but only 40%. So if we took the $1.2 million and you could capitalize 40%, maybe you use that 460 you've
Yeah.
got in the
Towards it.
side pocket towards it.
Yeah.
Now you're only bridging the gap with a small amount. That would buy us time until the next payment would be due, which is sometime in January or February of '26.
Okay.
So if you thought that the bond timing would be such that you could make that January, February payment and by then maybe procure the bond, I mean, you'd have to have a backup plan, obviously.
We're just gonna go. We're just gonna get put on a
I want
credit
you to
card.
have a backup plan.
it does,
That's an option, and it certainly is an
I'm
option.
just saying, I don't think we should take it off the table because we're concerned about timing. That's all.
Question?
Yeah.
Follow-up question onto your line of thinking. So the original cost benefit of paying off number one versus toward number two was
Yeah.
that situation as we have it in our packet. But if you do it that way, where you're buying number two outright with a 30% rebate, does that change? Does that swap it to where, yes, putting that we have set aside toward number two is actually a better deal? Because that wasn't, that
Yeah.
was done, and it was determined that that wouldn't be the best route, but that was with different information or a different scenario.
Yeah.
Your best route's to pay both of them off, so if you could get a
that's,
bond and pay yourself back the $460,000 that you borrowed temporarily to get the contract in play, once you get reimbursed yourself, you pay off array number one, and you have the funds to pay off the remainder of array number two.
Can we just model that, Matt?
yeah, we can. I'll be,
I know that's a risky play, but I think it's worth, not risky. I think it's just worth understanding if that's an option. So,
That's part of, they can do that
I can do
regardless
that.
of what we
Yeah.
decide tonight.
Okay,
So if we
yeah.
move forward with this today, then
can model
that
that
will
out.
be part of the math that they
Great.
go off and do, right? And then come back to us on the 25th.
okay. Right?
It's just a question of looking at what the prevailing rates are gonna be and then looking at the term that you wanna have. And then, figure out your principal and interest and where it would be if you were gonna bond it. what we can, and Helena and I can work on that as well as with Guy. So, I mean, we can model that all out and give you, let's just say, a nice menu to choose from.
Cool. Great idea, Bailey.
So the only thing I'm a little worried about, and I think what you're saying will work, but so we have an investor with $5 million, and there's like 10 people that want the $5 million, and I have a placeholder for the 1.2 million right now. So all I'm saying is we're gonna need to make a decision on the 25th, one way or the other for sure, because I have to give that person notification, otherwise he's gonna go somewhere else
Okay.
with the money, and I don't want that to happen.
Okay.
I've got that protected right now. I got my elbows,
man.
my sharp elbows are out, but
Yeah.
we just
Yeah.
know that time is of the essence in the decision-making, which way we go.
Yeah.
But to your point, if you can swing it, the savings is gonna be exponential.
Yeah.
So on the savings question, if I remember correctly, you mentioned something about 700-ish savings, and then if we bought it outright in like year 6, that was 1.7
That's
or
right.
so, like for the
It
25.
increases by $1 million.
Yeah. So do we have the numbers on, instead of waiting until year 6? You know, if we did it now, is that 1.7?
So what I'm gonna
Turn
do
into-
tomorrow is I'm gonna remodel this as if you were gonna purchase it.
Okay.
And I'm gonna give you that 30% rebate, and then I'm gonna show you what that's gonna look like. There's gonna be no power purchase agreement. It's gonna be, here's the purchase price, here's the federal tax rebate, and here's the net cost after the rebate. And then I'm gonna put that in the cash flow sheet. What would you like me to use for, I can do a bond over X number of years at a certain rate, and I can model that into my cash flow. What should I use?
Matt, what do you think?
4.5.
Greeley's borrowing money today at
Yeah.
about 4.5%.
Yeah, I'd say 4.5.
And I don't know what the terms of your normal bonds are. Are they 20 years, 30 years?
Yeah, I think I'd probably do either 5 or 10.
I'd say 5. I don't
Yeah.
think it's beneficial unless it's 5.
Yeah,
'cause it just
I
feels.
think 4.5 and 5 is probably a good.
So use a 5% interest rate. Do you want to model that with a 25-year?
No,
which is-
5-year period.
5-year
Five-year
period for
period.
4.5%.
Okay.
So on that, Matt, we'd be looking at just bonding number 2, you know, and taking that 450, moving that from phase 1 over to phase 2 to get up and running with phase 2. Then the bond comes in, it pays back that 450. That 450 goes back to phase 1, and then we try to make up the difference somehow between that 450 and the final buyout potentially. Does it make sense to
That would be my
bond
thought.
both?
Yeah, what you would do is
Just
that-
bond it all and
Yeah, I think you do the whole shoot match, because you take that 450 that we have currently, and yeah, you could push that towards this to make it work as far as the acquisition, what Guy would need to get rolling forward to have that commitment. And then you would look at, okay, what's that, and then you look at the overall nut as to what you'd want to have. So what's that difference between that 450 and the purchase price for phase 1? And then what's that difference? And then what's the amount for phase 2 to outright purchase that? And look at what those two numbers are combined, and that'd be what you'd look at the borrowing for.
Okay, so 4.5% at 5 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are you okay with that, Matt?
I think I think it's right on.
Yeah, I think 20
Right
years
on.
is too long to be bonding that.
I mean, you want
It's
to,
like-
my opinion, it's like anything. I mean, if you were buying a ladder truck, you'd
Yeah.
do 5 years, and you'd have 25 plus years. Bill would say 35 for a ladder truck, but
Well,
if you had
I just
that.
look at it like your
But you
shelf
want to
life.
maximize your benefit.
Yeah, your shelf life's 40 years. It's not enough money to be rolling it into a 20-year bond, so.
Because you're offset by interest.
Yeah.
You know, so if
That's-
the shorter you can have the
Less
period,
interest,
the less
yeah.
you have outlaid on borrowing expenses. So
I mean, based on, numbers that I've done in the past, if with tax credit and depreciation, normally you'd be looking at a 5-year ROI, right? So if we take the depreciation out, you're still probably looking at a 7 or 8 year ROI. You're gonna be paid off
Yeah.
with the savings in year 7 or 8.
Yeah.
That's with the interest.
I think that's ideal, right?
Yeah. Well,
Definitely
your
does.
savings doubles over 25 years.
Matt, just a question for you. I mean, I think it makes sense to look into what Bailey's suggesting, but when you come back to us, can we model that into our tax rate with that the school's gonna hit and everything? Because
Yeah.
I think it'd be a good idea to look at how that's gonna impact us over the next 5 years with everything else that could appear as well.
I mean, it should be a net zero. So what you used to pay the utilities, you're now going to pay the loan.
Right.
Theoretically, but
Well, yeah.
let's run the numbers, right?
Yeah,
Doesn't
absolutely.
take too long.
Always run the numbers. They don't lie.
Yeah, that's where guys' numbers, his model would come in to show, okay, what's our offset, and then we could look at that and say, well, if we're saving, $140,000 a year or whatever in electrical costs, then your debt service on that amount is X amount of dollars. It's like, okay, it really costs us $10,000 a year to do that, and after 5 years, it's all gravy going into your pocket. So, but yeah, we've got to put all that together.
And the other thing I'm going to include in the cash flow is I'm going to include the operating and maintenance costs so that those are factored into your ROI because you're going to be the owner. So we should factor in that expense.
I
But-
get, sorry.
Go ahead, still you.
I guess while we're talking about operation and maintenance, I mean, I'd like for you to come back with a little bit more information on like disposal costs and everything else. I know it's 40 years from now. I
Yeah.
know it's hard to calculate,
Yeah.
but it's like, I don't want to sit here and make a decision
Yeah.
not thinking about the people 40 years down the road.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it's everything appears great right now, and I'm sure it's going to continue to be great, but never hurts to do your homework first.
Yep, no,
So,
I can get you some information on our disposal process
okay.
and how we do it.
So we're gonna have Denise and then Andrew.
Couple clarifying questions. If we buy it outright, does that change anything about like the PPA rate escalations?
You will have no
and anything like
PPA
that?
rate.
So, okay, cool.
Yeah.
And then, like if I was tuning in from home, not watching the workshop first, like I think this was a little crazy because we're talking about like, just like investors and the solar people and like moving our money around and like all this stuff. Like it would be good if we had context on what we're doing exactly, just like general overview. And then also if you can quantify that based on, you pay it off in X amount of years and then the rest of that usable life, which is, hopefully 40 years, basically,
Compounded savings.
like basically how we're basically helping ourselves with how much we pay now and how much you anticipate our cost would have been for whatever that megawatt is going to do for the town. And I don't think you have that offhand, but in this modeling, if we could have on the town side, this is, over the next decades, how this would affect like the whole equation as we're looking at this.
I think so. I know Guy can
I can
probably model that.
I can do the production and the solar side of it, but I can't do the projected. I mean, you're going to have to guess at what you think the utility rates. You're going to have to use a set escalator on utility rates.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to have to say if it's an 8-year rate of return on investment. And so we're going to have paid this array off in year 8. But I want to model it out to year 40. Then we're going to take
There's a lot of unknowns.
32 years of,
Yeah.
Potential savings. We don't typically, we don't go out further than, 25 years on our modeling.
That's totally fine.
There's other factors too that I haven't even talked about, but like when you own the array, we're going to be creating renewable energy credits. So this is it's another source of income to you as the owner. When the investor owns the array, they receive the renewable energy credits because they're sold on a third-party market. It's another income source. So factored into your being the owner, now you're going to get the renewable energy credits in lieu of the investor, and that's going to change the model. So that will also be factored in my new model. It gets better. Whenever you own it, it's better.
Right.
If you can do it.
Can't believe you just talked about revenue generation when Bailey left the room. But, okay.
One more question. You had said that with the timing and all that, you have to have received your products by the end of the year.
Right.
So what happens if you don't?
we're guaranteeing that we will.
Okay. It's like, this is like getting into like the solar
No,
underground
I mean, we,
interconnections and stuff.
right now, we have a team of people in
Okay.
procurement, and we have modules in reserve. So we,
Okay.
not to get into the weeds, but we are looking at our pipeline, and we're having to say, these are the jobs we think are gonna go.
Okay.
They're already purchasing those, because we could cancel the order at the last minute, but we're already putting in procurement orders to be received in October, which is why we need cash in October.
Thank you.
Yep.
So Matt, with if we own everything, then we take over the grounds maintenance and all that. We're already doing that, and so I'm assuming adding phase 2 maintenance isn't that much more. I mean, it's a few more longer rows of the lawnmower and a turn later, but we're already mowing that area anyway. Right now we just have a few more impediments in the way, right?
Exactly. We are already cutting the area, so it's just a question of refining your lines, I guess would be the way to put it, in between.
Can we rent out some goats and
Yeah.
Yes.
have them do it?
Yeah,
Yes.
we lease sheep, seriously. So we have flocks of sheep that we rent from farmers. We put them in all fenced-in areas, and sheep are just smart enough not to chew on the wires, but they chew everything else.
No guarantee, though.
Barely smart enough.
I'm so here for that.
Surprised they eat everything
And we
else.
literally move them around.
Very good. The sheep herder.
Anyway, food for thought.
Bob and then Denise.
I was just gonna say, you should repeat what Bailey missed.
She knows now.
Okay.
Andrew
That was
made sure
quick.
to let her know.
He was desperate to let me know.
Bob,
I'm ready to make a motion.
could
Well,
we wait
can we
until
wait
Jeff
till,
comes back?
I'll wait till Jeff comes back.
Thank you, sir.
The point I'll make is that we are talking about, we really got into the weeds of how we're gonna finance this thing, but the important thing,
Hey, guys, sorry.
the important thing that we're doing is making a decision about the future of this community. And this is, wind and solar energy is the cheapest way to produce energy in the world today.
Yeah.
There's nothing else there that you can compare cost-wise with solar and wind power, of cost per kilowatt, and your return on your investment. So this is, it's not 25 years. Probably the life of this array is closer to 50 years. Yes, you're going to replace some panels here and there, and some inverters, and some wiring and things like that. But it's a minimal. And I'm sure you can back that up with some anecdotal evidence of, the cost of maintaining a solar array.
It's minimal. There's no moving parts on a solar panel.
Yeah.
It's a fixed entity. The only thing that actually moves is the parts within the inverter. And we have inverter replacement calculated into the formulas.
I was curious the other day when we had that hailstorm. I thought to myself, I wonder if
Act of God, force majeure.
That's what insurance is for.
Luckily, we don't have too many of those.
I mean, on that, I've got panels on my house, and they're 10 years old, the oldest ones, and so they've advanced technology and all that, and they were fine with the hail that was almost golf ball size. So they're rated for certain level of size, hail and wind and all. So
kids with baseballs.
depends on
adults,
how
or
good the
adults.
kids are.
Fireworks.
I would move to authorize the town manager to enter into negotiations with Vision Energy on the purchase of the existing solar field and expansions of, and negotiation on an additional power purchase agreement.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the motion? All right, call for a vote. All those in favor? Unanimous, Brenda. Thank you so much, Mr. Marshall.
Thank you very much.
I think we'll probably see you again soon.
Really exciting, Matt. Thanks for getting this.
That's awesome.
moving.
I do have to take a moment to thank Guy for the work he's done on this, and also thank Chris Bolduc. He did a ton of work getting all that together,
I
all
can't
the information
imagine.
together. So it was really well done. Yeah, it was a lot of work. So
Under
really,
the gun, too,
yeah.
for timing, right?
And,
So.
and Councilor Vale telling us we had to step on it. So we got.
Thank you,
we got
Councillor
it.
Vale,
He
for
is good.
championing that.
Like, you got to get this done. So.
Eye on the ball. Thank you,
Yep.
Bob.
Cool.
Okay, all right, then, we're moving into new business. We will start all the way to our right with Councilor Mahalik. Over to you, sir.
All right. Put another $20 in the food pantry. I just try to always end things on a positive note. It's just how I try to operate. And, I've heard about trash removal past couple weeks, and, it's a new process. And anytime you implement a new process, whether it's in business or government, or there's always bumps in the road. And I'll be honest, I'm confident that our employees of the town and Casella will work to get all the bumps smoothed out. It's never easy, though, when you're the one experiencing the issue. To the residents that are working through some of these issues, I want you to realize that I hear you. And I know it's painful and it's difficult. Mine happened to work really good, but, I got a pretty simple way to put my trash out. So, I think we're going to get through this, and there are a lot of people that it is working as it should for them, and it's not easy to hear, when you're the one that isn't, but I think we're going to get through it. Tax rates, I have had some citizens obviously voice their concerns, and, for those of you who share those same concerns, I'll understand that, and I'll remember how you folks are feeling. And then lastly, I feel like, we've been hit with some major issues the past couple meetings, and, my job takes me across every corner of Maine, New Hampshire, and Vermont on a frequent basis. And this is my home. There's no other place I really want to be. So as I think about trash removal, I remember the days of going to the landfill as a kid, because it was the first time I slammed my hand in the car door, because I was so excited to throw the trash bag in the back of a dump truck. But then, I also remember how this community was built, and recognize the foundation was built on, and I'll give you folks a little bit more history. When I was in first grade, they built this playground called Tuttletown. And, it was assembled by a bunch of volunteers, and honestly, Bob Vale kind of led the charge, and that was when I met Bob Vale, back in probably about 1986. Those type of projects don't really exist anymore in the liability of society we have, but, the values of the people that were around back then have been transformed onto other people like myself, and, I just feel that's why this town has the character it has, and these are the values that make Cumberland a great place to live. So those are my comments for tonight, and thank you.
Councilor Thorson?
That was so nice. Do you want to do housing authority, Bob, or you want me to? Were you going to talk about the update, or you want me to do the update?
Go ahead.
Okay. He'll add on what I forget. The housing authorities met a couple times and have decided that they're going to wrestle with the idea of a means test for residents, because currently one does not exist.
Tell me more.
So they will be looking at whether to implement whether it is income restricted or also figuring in assets, but that's a lot harder to do. So they'll be looking at that. It's just in the early stages. They just decided to dive into that at the last meeting. Additionally, potentially looking at eligibility this was just one comment by Connie Bingham, but for example, if there's a lifelong Cumberland resident that has had to move away for reasons and they're on the list, but then they're no longer considered a Cumberland resident for the purposes of the list, whether or not X amount of time here still puts you in that Cumberland resident status while you're on the waiting list. So yeah, I was looking at that. They were kind of determining that there were quite a few people on the list that would not necessarily meet that means test. So implementing something like that would make sure that we're serving the people in housing who need it at that rate, and not just kind of giving it away to whoever, because they are very good rates. So tying a means test to that ensures that they're being given to those who need them, and this would be for new residents. Wouldn't be imposing anything on existing. That's all I have for that. And then additionally, following up on public comment, perhaps we'll get to it, but for the comp plan committee, have there been any workshops scheduled yet, like community workshops on the calendar, or is that still in the works? Because that's part of it, correct?
It absolutely is part of it, in-person meetings with different areas of town. We have just gotten the initial survey results back, so the first step is to go through, we haven't even gone through the survey results yet as a team after they've been fully analyzed.
They are coming. And there's gonna be more than one, right? Like workshops?
Oh, yeah, I think there's like 6 or 7
Okay.
in the GPCOG contract, and that's
Cool.
why we went. One of the reasons why we went with GPCOG is that they had factored in more meetings than any of the other consultants that we were
Okay.
looking at.
That's good. And then Bob said we went into the weeds on solar, and I'm glad we did, because it's a lot to think of under a very short time constraint. Like really, like I know we had talked about expanding the solar field in the future, asterisk, and it's like now. So I appreciate us taking the time to go through the weeds and kind of put all the options out there for Matt and Guy to explore and model for us so we can make an informed decision, because it's a big one. I mean, it's like millions of dollars, but so is paying for electricity. Finally, what Bill said, is it true that we can't put our trash cans in driveways? Is that a Casella rule, or is that just they don't like Bill, or, because I'm in the winter, I'll plow my driveway and I'll put my cans there. I'm not gonna plow the embankment where the plow creates an 8-foot, mountain of snow. So just those kind of things, like people hearing things from Casella, this and that, like adding that to the FAQ on what's real, what is in our contract, what is in Casella's actual rules, so that they're like applicable across the board. Because not putting your trash cans in your driveway, that's like a thing.
The top
that all
of my
winter.
list is to follow up on Mr. Young's comment, just to see what the story is on that,
Cool.
but then also, I mean, majority of them that I see is are at the end of people's driveways, so I think that's fine. It's just a question of, I just have to find out what's going on in hedgerow.
Okay.
That's hedgerow with a question mark, so.
Okay. That's
No.
I'll grab you after that too, if I could.
I think that's it.
Thank you, Councillor Thorson. Councillor Vale?
I'm all set.
Councillor Douglas?
Reminder that the big bounce is at the Cumberland Fairgrounds this weekend. For those of you who didn't get to check out the Heart Yard sale, it was a 10 out of 10. It's bought a lot of things there. And then there is a meteor shower tonight from midnight till dawn. It's supposed to be the biggest one of the year, so check it out.
Past my bedtime.
Okay.
Fortunately, Council, you'll be home before midnight this week.
Right?
First time
Oh,
last
we
couple
we
meetings.
can definitely
know
come up
what?
with enough to say for the next,
Oh, we have executive session
4
after this.
hours and.
We have executive session, so we could be here until midnight. Hopefully not.
I'd send a note to the council on this, but just for the public, there was a mention at last meeting about the community orchard being a potential, the LCC looking at starting like sort of a nursery for trees and all, so we can grow them here as opposed to buying them from somewhere else for more. And they're looking at the community orchard for having a plot over there of doing that. And having our own little tree nursery in addition to the community orchard there, which I think is really cool. And I would just be, I think, remiss if I did not wish my dog a happy 6th birthday today. Ending things on a lighter note. She's 6 years old. It's her birthday today on the meeting.
I love
Why not?
I love it.
Congrats, dog. Congrats.
I only have one thing, Madam Chair, is a few weeks ago we talked about term limits for committees and commissions. And I'd like to see if there's an appetite sending to the ordinance committee the issue of term limits, and maybe if we can get a list, Matt, if the council, if you guys want to send it to have us look at it, come back with a finished product for you to consider on term limits, and for whom and for what committees or all of them. You know, these aren't Supreme Court nominations. These aren't lifetime appointments, but there's really no rhyme or reason why we don't have term limits on it. So I'd like to see that. I personally would like to see that sent to the ordinance committee for consideration.
Could we do that by council consensus?
I
I
can
can't help but respond to that, Mike.
Go ahead.
We have no term limits for town councilors. We have no term limits for school board members. I would be totally opposed to term limits. And the reason I say that is that, you know, getting people to serve in this community, we shouldn't discourage them. I think people know when they've served their time, and you've seen, you know, Bob Robinson, if you remember him, 30 years, Board of Appeals. Before that, he served on the council. There's just numerous people who have dedicated their time to this community for decades, and to have that conversation, you know, I think we could all say, I wish so-and-so would just step down, you know, or, you know, but by and large, the people that serve in this community do so with dedication, and I see no reason to discourage that by applying a set time.
So I misspoke, Bob. I'm not talking about term limits. I'm talking about terms. We're totally two different things. You and I can run for 6, 7, 10 terms on the council, but we're reappointed by the people every 3 years. And that's why I hate term limits in Augusta, because the people are the term limits. But we as a council should, if somebody gets appointed to the appeals board, for personnel appeals board, and he gets appointed in 1990, should they just stay on there forever, or do we want to look at it and say, every 3 years, are you interested in coming back on that and doing another 3-year term, or another 4 years, or what do we put on it? And then we as a council, as the appointing body, to say, yeah, we think they're a good fit for another 3 years. They may not be. But I don't, 100%, Bob, I agree with you. Term limits have no place. I misspoke when I said term limits, terms.
I guess I'm open to the discussion then.
I know for LCC committees, there are terms. I think my orchard subcommittee one's like 3 years or something, but I know that typically, you know, we'll get a list of people. I don't know if I can't remember if it comes through the nominating committee or what, and then we'll vote on people continuing on. But I do think there is a couple steps missing in the process as far as like actually getting feedback from the chair on it. Has this person even been participating? Because I haven't much at the orchard, to be honest, because I'm doing this and other things. So I don't know. Should I be reappointed? Probably not, because I'm not doing a whole lot. And there are others on other committees that I could probably say the same about statistically. So, yeah, I don't know if it would be an ordinance or just like a policy or something to kind of like vet people at least to make sure that, you know, they've been active, they're participating, and they want to be reappointed rather than just everybody's a shoo-in once you're in.
Yeah.
And then
Denise,
also,
I'll use when I was well before I was on the council for 10 or 12 years, I was in the Personnel Appeals Board. I came in and they appointed me, and it was a great committee because we never had one meeting. But I was on there for 10 or 12 years. And I think it's just one of those that if nothing else, hey, 3 years after I was appointed, are you still interested in staying on? Sure. So it's something we look at.
For like chairs of things, for example, also if, you know, perhaps a secret ballot of nominating chairs or something, or, okay, Bob's shaking his head, but it's, there are dynamics at play, whether, you know, you want to talk about them or not, to where sometimes you may not feel comfortable voting for someone else to be the chair when someone's been a very long-standing chair. That is a fact. So.
I'd like to see the discussion, whether it's, you know, policy or ordinance, you know, and I like Mike's idea of going through and looking at, because, you know, Denise, you were saying, you know, the LCC has terms, but others don't. Like, which ones do, which ones don't,
Yeah.
and then just getting sort of as much as we can a uniform set for the town of, you know, appointing people for certain terms. Like, you know, you mentioned, Mike, you know, we're appointed for a term, and then somebody comes in and says yes or no. That's somebody being the voters. You know, I like that idea. I will say I would also be open to the discussion of term limits. They don't need to be, you know, short, but having some set, because you do have a lot of people that give a lot to this town, you know, a lot of years, but we don't know how many people don't give because, oh, well, this person, they're in that position. I could never be in that position. I have to wait for them to, you know, step down or die. And so therefore I can't, you know, give to the town. I mean,
Sorry.
if there's no sort of end limit,
Yeah, maybe it's just a
that's what it
1 year
is.
break or some, there needs to just be some spatial.
So a way to get, you know, new blood, new ideas, new ways of looking things, while also maintaining that long term. If it's an 18-year limit, 18 years is a long time for, you know, knowledge, and it's spaced over. It's not like you'd be turning over an entire committee or commission at once. You have things staggered and all. So I think that there's, you know, it'd be good to have that discussion on both sides of that. And, you know, town-wide for all the different committees, commissions, et cetera.
I look forward to an exciting ordinance meeting. Would that be, or would you be willing to take on
Let's do it.
chair of the ordinance, at least that initial discussion?
Let's do it.
All right, council consensus there?
Yes.
Yep.
Thumbs up. Okay, cool beans. Is that all you had, Mike?
Yeah, I am. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome, Sir Vice Chair. Okay. Oh, I had one thing, and Denise might already know this, but I wanted to, I don't know if anyone told you, but there are trash bags available at the food pantry.
Really?
Yes. However, and Whitney will strike me down if I am wrong about this, but as the food pantry serves more than just Cumberland, I think we have Cumberland trash bags at the food pantry. I don't know if we have other trash bags. We probably don't, because that wouldn't be in our
I'm sure other
service,
towns
but-
could donate some bags if they wanted to pass out to those residents.
Yeah, if they wanted to. But I just wanted
is
to close
it-
the loop on that.
What is it like one bag a person every time you go? Is it like we give you a roll of bags? Like, how does it work exactly?
I don't know if we had the data, but we could find out from the food pantry peoples.
Alright,
who are-
cool.
Yeah, awesome. That is all. That is all I had. Oh, we have a comprehensive plan meeting on Thursday. I will be on vacation, so Bob, I am hoping you're gonna be there to cover me. I'm not very important anyway. All right.
I'll be there.
Thank you, sir. Okay, so that is it. We are going to move into executive session. If someone would give us that motion.
I move to recess into executive session pursuant to 1 MRSA 4056A regarding town manager's evaluation.
I'll second that motion.
Okay.
Bill, you want to stay? Oh, I'm just kidding. You gotta go. See ya.
All right.
Yeah,
Maybe,
of
but
course.
we're gonna
in the
send
hallway.
in the hallway. Yes. Out of here, please. We got some personnel stuff to talk about.
Yeah, do we need to vote on the?